So another job bit the dust. Factory closed down, just like a bunch of others around here lately. Found myself staring at the bottom of a coffee mug, more often than not, wondering what was next. Then I saw it. Overnight janitor. Grandview Community Pool, good pay. Sounded easy enough. Mop some floors, check the filters, mostly just sit in the quiet. A piece of cake for a guy like me. Not glamorous? No. But it paid the bills, and that's all I needed. Applied online, got a call back surprisingly fast. Day shift manager, old man Hemlock, told me to come down that afternoon. When I got there, he looked like he'd been dragged backward through a hedge. Thin, hunched over with eyes that seemed to jump around a lot. He mumbled through a quick tour. The locker rooms, the office, the big pool area with all those high ceilings. It was empty and quiet even in the daytime, which made it feel bigger than it should. So, you just sweep up, mop, make sure no one breaks in. Check the chemical levels in the main pump room every hour, he rasped, barely looking at me. Easy money. Huh? I nodded. Sounds about right. He gave me a key fob, showing me how to lock up. As he turned to leave, he stopped, pulled a crumpled, greasy piece of paper from his work pants pocket, and shoved it into my hand. It was an old handwritten sheet, the ink faded in spots. Just a few extra things, he grumbled, his eyes darting quickly towards the dark, still pool. Don't ignore him, not if you want to see the sunrise. He didn't wait for me to respond, just shuffled off, leaving me standing alone in the echoing silence. I unfolded the paper, half expecting a joke, maybe some hazing from the old-timer. But what I read made the hairs on my neck stand up. Grandview Community Pool, overnight maintenance protocol, supplemental. Attention, night shift personnel. Compliance is non-negotiable. Rule 1. Always ensure the main pool lights are off before midnight. Use only emergency path lighting. Do not use the main lights again until 6 a.m. Rule 2. If you hear splashing or voices from the pool area when no one should be present, do not investigate immediately. Check security monitors from the office first. Rule 3. Never approach the deep end of the main pool between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. If you are already there, turn around slowly and leave without looking into the water. Rule 4. The changing room mirrors sometimes fog up unexpectedly. If this happens, do not wipe them. Leave the room and return after 10 minutes. Rule 5. At exactly 3:33 a.m., you must be in the main pump room. Close and lock the door. Do not open it until 3:38 a.m., regardless of sound or knocking. I stared at the list quirks. This wasn't quirks. This was nuts. Don't ignore him. What did he mean? Not if you want to see the sunrise. The old man was clearly a few laps short of a full pool. I chuckled, stuffing the paper into my pocket. No way I was buying into some superstitious nonsense. I was here to mop floors, not play ghost hunter. It was just past 11 p.m. when I officially started. The place was dead quiet. I figured I'd get the locker rooms done first. I swept up, wiped down the counters. Around 11:30, I decided to head to the main pool area. It was already dim, just the exit signs and some path lights glowing faintly. I remembered Rule 1, main pool lights off before midnight. Fine, I muttered to myself. Saves electricity anyway. I flipped the big switch for the main overhead lights, plunging the vast pool area into even deeper shadows. That's when I heard it, a faint splash. My head snapped up. It came from the main pool, a soft, lazy ripple. I froze. It was just water settling, right? Or maybe a rat. This place was old. I walked closer to the edge, peering into the murky blue. Nothing. The surface was still, reflecting the emergency lights like distorted stars. Then a low, guttural gurgle, like someone swallowing a mouthful of water, deep, deep under the surface. My breath hitched. My heart started to hammer against my ribs. Rule 2. If you hear splashing or voices from the pool area, do not investigate immediately. I'd already blown that. I was practically leaning over the edge. I spun on my heel and practically ran to the security office, slamming the door shut. I flipped on the monitor bank. The cameras were grainy, but the main pool feed showed nothing, just the still, dark water. I forced myself to breathe. My imagination was playing tricks. Old man Hemlock's creepy rules were getting to me. I wasn't going to let some weird gurgling sound spook a seasoned guy like me, not on my first night. I tried to shake off the unsettling experience from the pool. It was just nerves, new place, spooky old manager, weird rules. My mind was probably just cooking things up. But as the clock ticked past midnight, the silence of the pool felt less peaceful and more expectant. My next task was to check the men's changing rooms. I pushed the door open, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly. Everything seemed normal. I started sweeping, pushing stray towels and bits of paper into a pile. That's when I noticed it. One of the mirrors over the sinks was fogged up. Not just a little, like someone just showered, but a thick, opaque mist, even though the room was cold and empty. My eyes flicked to my pocket. Rule 4. The changing room mirrors sometimes fog up unexpectedly. If this happens, do not wipe them. Leave the room and return after 10 minutes. Ridiculous, I mumbled. Probably just a faulty ventilation system or something. I wasn't going to leave a job half done. I reached out a hand, intending to wipe a clear spot on the mirror. My fingers were almost there when I saw it. In the condensation, a faint, wavering outline of a child's handprint began to press into the mist. It wasn't just fog. Something was inside the mirror. I yanked my hand back like the mirror was scalding hot. My heart hammered again. This wasn't some condensation trick. I stumbled out of the changing room, leaving the sweeping half finished. 10 minutes. I'd give it 10 minutes just to see. And also, because my gut was screaming at me to get away from that mirror. I walked the perimeter of the pool area, trying to seem casual. Like I wasn't just fleeing from a fogged-up mirror. The air felt heavy, damp. The silence pressed in on me, broken only by the distant rhythmic hum of the main pumps. As I passed the deep end of the main pool, I glanced at my watch. It was 1:15 a.m. Rule 3 flashed in my mind. Never approach the deep end of the main pool. Between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Son of a gun, I muttered. I was already at the deep end. I paused, my eyes drawn to the water. It looked so dark, so deep. I heard a faint, almost imperceptible whisper from somewhere beneath the surface. It sounded like a child's voice, bubbly and indistinct, calling out a name. My name? I froze, caught between morbid curiosity and sheer terror. The rule said do not look into the water. But what was it? What was down there? My eyes drifted lower, towards the dark, unseen depths. Just for a second then I saw it, not clearly, just a fleeting glimpse. A pale, childlike face, with wide, black eyes, staring up from the murky bottom. It was impossibly far down, yet I could see it, distinct and terrifying. It smiled, a wide, slow grin that stretched too far. I didn't think. I turned around and walked as fast as I could without actually running, my blood chilling in my veins. My head was pounding. That wasn't a reflection. That wasn't a trick of the light. That was real. The rules weren't crazy. I was crazy for ignoring them. I locked myself in the security office, staring at the grainy monitors. The main pool camera showed nothing, just the dark water. But I knew what I'd seen. And I knew Old Man Hemlock wasn't crazy, he was warning me. The next few hours were a blur of terror and forced duty. I kept to the shallow end of the pool during my patrols, my eyes fixed firmly away from the deep end. Every shadow seemed to stretch and twist. Every creak of the old building sounded like something unseen moving closer. My flashlight beam felt like a flimsy shield against the encroaching dread. Around 2:45 a.m., my bladder decided to remind me it existed. I debated holding it, but the thought of spending another hour in agony was almost as bad as facing whatever was out there. I knew the men's changing room mirror would have reset by now, thanks to Rule 4. I cautiously made my way there. Sure enough, the mirror was clear. I hurried, trying to be quick. As I washed my hands, the fluorescent lights above me flickered. Once, twice, then stayed dim. I glanced at my reflection. My face was pale, drawn, eyes wide with fear. But then, behind me in the reflection, I saw it. Standing in the doorway, impossibly tall and thin, was a figure. It looked like a lifeguard mannequin, one of the old plastic ones they use for CPR training, but it was moving. Its head was tilted, watching me. Its plastic arms slowly, unnaturally rose, pointing a long white finger directly at the mirror. I spun around. Nothing, the doorway was empty, just the normal buzzing lights. My breath hitched. I looked back at the mirror. The mannequin was still there in the reflection, its finger now pressing against the glass. A wave of ice-cold panic washed over me. I remembered Rule 4 about the mirrors. What if it wasn't just about the fog? What if it was about seeing things in them? I smashed my fist against the mirror, a desperate, irrational attempt to break the reflection. The glass rattled but didn't break. The mannequin in the reflection seemed to tilt its head further, a silent, knowing gesture. I bolted, not even bothering to flush. I ran back to the security office, slamming and locking the door. I threw myself into the chair, my chest heaving. This wasn't just about the rules anymore. This was about them. They were playing with me, using the rules to torment me. I checked the clock, 3:30 a.m. My heart seized. Rule 5. At exactly 3:33 a.m., you must be in the main pump room. Close and lock the door. Do not open it until 3:38 a.m., regardless of sound or knocking. The pump room was at the far end of the building, across the pool area. I had 3 minutes. Every fiber of my being screamed to stay locked in the office. But the way those rules had played out tonight, I couldn't risk it if I didn't comply. What would happen? Would they come for me? Would they shatter the glass? I swallowed hard, grabbed my flashlight, and pushed myself out the door. The pool area was a vast, dark abyss, punctuated by the faint path lights. The hum of the pumps, usually a comforting sound of machinery, now felt like a low, vibrating growl. I walked as fast as I dared, my flashlight beam cutting through the oppressive darkness. 3:32 a.m., I was at the pump room door. I fumbled with the key, my hands shaking. I pulled it open and slipped inside, the smell of chlorine and ozone thick in the air. I slammed the heavy metal door shut and locked it. The room was small, filled with massive worry machinery. 3:33 a.m. The pumps, already loud, suddenly seemed to surge. The entire room vibrated. A deep, resonant thrum filled the air, the sound seemingly coming from everywhere and nowhere. Then a chilling sound started. A scraping, like something huge dragging itself across the tiled floor outside the door. And it was getting closer. My eyes darted to the heavy door. The scraping stopped just outside. Then, a single, incredibly loud knock. It wasn't human. It was heavy, wet, and solid, like a giant waterlogged fist hitting metal. Knock, knock, knock. Each one vibrated through the floor into my feet. Then, a low, drawn-out groan, like an ancient beast waking from a long slumber, followed by a wet, sucking sound, as if something was pressing against the door, trying to force its way in. I huddled against the wall, eyes squeezed shut, counting under my breath. 3:34 a.m., 3:35 a.m. The scraping started again, less like dragging, more like something was clawing at the door, making high-pitched squeals of metal on metal. Then a voice, not a whisper, but a deep, booming sound that reverberated through the room, somehow both underwater and dry. It was saying something unintelligible, but filled with immense, ancient hunger. It knew I was in here. It knew I was waiting. The 5 minutes in that pump room stretched into an eternity. The scraping and the monstrous groaning outside the door continued until precisely 3:38 a.m. Then, just as abruptly as it began, it all stopped. The hum of the pumps settled back into their normal rhythm. Silence. I waited another minute, heart still hammering, before I dared to unlock the heavy door. The hallway was empty. The pool area, though still dark, looked exactly as it had before. Nothing, no claw marks on the door, no puddles, no sign that something ancient and terrifying had been trying to claw its way in. But the smell of ozone was incredibly strong, and I could still feel the faint tremor in the floor beneath my feet. The rest of the night passed in a blurry haze of paranoia. I didn't leave the security office. I kept my eyes glued to the monitors, watching the empty pool, the still changing rooms. searching for any flicker, any shadow. Every time a new shift worker arrived, I dismissed my fear as lack of sleep, trying to rationalize it away. But I knew what I'd seen and heard. Then, at 5:55 a.m., a new set of rules popped up on the monitor screen. I hadn't expected more. It was almost over. My stomach dropped. Grandview Community Pool. End of shift protocol. Congratulations, agent. Your compliance ensures continuation. Rule 6. At 6 a.m., you must exit through the main employee entrance. Do not attempt to use any other exit. Rule 7. If you hear the pool filtration system shut down unexpectedly, do not acknowledge it. Continue to the exit. Rule 8. You may be approached by a child asking for their missing toy or goggles. Do not stop, do not speak, do not look at them. Rule 9. If the pool appears to be filled with anything other than water as you leave, do not look back, keep walking. I stared at the screen, my mouth dry. Congratulations, agent. It sounded like a twisted joke. What had I continued? My employment, or my direct participation in whatever horror haunted this pool? The clock ticked 5:59 a.m. I stood, my legs stiff, and walked to the employee exit. My heart pounded as the clock flipped to 6 a.m. I unlocked the door. The morning light was faint gray, but it was there. I stepped out, turning to lock the door behind me. Just as the latch clicked, I heard it. A deep, mechanical groan from inside the building. The distinct sound of the pool filtration system shutting down. My blood ran cold. Rule 7, do not acknowledge it. I forced myself to ignore it, to keep my hands steady as I secured the door. I turned to walk across the empty parking lot, and then I saw them, standing near the edge of the parking lot. By the fence was a small child, maybe 5 or 6 years old. They looked lost, shivering in a flimsy swimsuit. "Mister?" The child whimpered, their voice surprisingly clear. "Mister, did you see my ball? It went in the pool." My gut wrenched. Rule 8. Do not stop, do not speak, do not look at them. Every instinct screamed to help, but the warning from the handbook, the terror of the night, rooted me to the spot. I kept walking, my eyes fixed straight ahead, pretending I didn't hear. "Please, mister," the child pleaded, their voice closer now, just behind me. "It's cold. Can you help me get my ball?" I could feel their presence right behind me, a cold breath on my neck. I fought the urge to turn, to say something, anything. I just kept walking, my pace quickening. The child didn't call again. Instead, I heard a faint, wet giggle. It wasn't a child's giggle. It was deeper, full of an ancient, malicious joy, like something immense was just playing with me. I forced myself not to turn, not to look back. I got to my car, fumbling for the keys, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped them. I unlocked the door, yanked it open, and threw myself inside, slamming the door shut. I jammed the key in the ignition, started the car, and threw it into reverse, peeling out of the parking lot. As I drove away, my eyes darted to the rearview mirror, checking the pool one last time. Rule 9. If the pool appears to be filled with anything other than water, do not look back. The pool building loomed in the early morning light. The glass walls of the main pool area, which had reflected only the dull gray sky, now seemed to shimmer with a strange dark luminescence. And within the confines of the pool basin, instead of clear blue water, I saw something else. It looked like innumerable limbs, pale and slender, swaying slowly just beneath the surface. Like the pool was filled not with water, but with a dense, interconnected mass of pale, undulating tentacles or limbs. Slowly moving, reaching from some impossible depth. And amongst them, I thought I saw faint, shimmering shapes of faces just under the surface, eyes staring up at the roof. I jammed my foot down on the accelerator, not daring to look again. I didn't slow down until I was miles away. The Grandview Community Pool, nothing but a terrifying memory shrinking in my rear view. I quit the job that same morning, didn't even call. Old man Hemlock could keep his easy money. Some places are just wrong. And some rules, no matter how crazy they sound, are there for a reason. And I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone I'd never look at a community pool the same way again, or trust the quiet.